Yeah, welcome back, guys. This is going to be a long video. While editing this, I was going to break it into like 3 or 4 different chunks, a couple different episodes, so you can kind of get an idea of. Wouldn't have to sit through, I guess, a long video. But here we are. So I'll put it into one big long one. So if you're looking to, this is pertaining to obviously the fiberglass, as you'll see. This was shot over the course of quite a few days because there's a lot of labor involved in doing this. So I figure what's more fitting of an intro than to, sit in here and shoot a video. So we'll go ahead and get you into this without further ado. I don't want to sit here and yap because no one wants to hear me talk. So let's get into what we're doing today, shall we? Hang on, guys. This is going to be a long one. Enjoy. All right. I'd mentioned a while back that we were going to show you how to build fiberglass parts. So I guess maybe we'll start with this. This is a piece that needs a mold made of it. So I have already prepped it with the help of the original owner of this piece. This is actually, I could probably go into a little bit of this history. This is a piece out of the 4th season hero car. The actual piece. If I flip it over, you can see how it was mounted. There's a couple steel plates inside here with some wood, and you can tell it was very crudely built by a prop department, I guess. So there was a bank of switches here, and then on the show there'd be a bunch of red LEDs here, and I think there's some red LEDs here too. But this has all been filled in. The owner of the piece has done a pretty good job of prepping this to make it for a mold. I've put the mold release on it, which you have to do, otherwise you'll never get this thing out when it is produced. Once you start laying up the tooling gel and the layers of the reinforced catalyzed resin and the glass, you'll never get the two apart. So it's very important to, and I think I'm going to show this when I pull a part out of the mold. I'll go through the whole process, like from step to step, or step by step. So this one takes, I've done a little bit already just to kind of get it prepped, because there's a lot of work to do when you do this kind of stuff. It takes hours and hours and hours. So if you go to buy a piece from somebody who's an actual, a good vendor, and you see the prices and go, well, geez, I can buy the materials to do that for a fraction of that cost. Well, maybe you can. And there are some quality resins and glass and stuff out there that you can get. But it's the knowledge of how to do it and the labor involved to build custom pieces is up there. So it's most of the time these guys aren't trying to rip you off. It's a very labor intensive process. So this one I have already gotten the mold release, and I use a couple different ways to do it. So I've got I can probably show you. Yeah, there it is. So I've got that I use is one of the, I don't drop it. I use this. It's a pretty good mold release wax. You can get it from any of your fiberglass supply stores, I'm assuming. It's been a while since I bought some. I've got, 4 or 5 containers of this. McGuire's makes a mold release wax. Don't use an automotive paste wax. Use something that's for fiberglass, that's for mold release. Because there's a lot of exotherm temperatures you have to deal with, and you don't want the wax breaking down on you. What I've been using for resin lately is number 78. I think they stopped making 77, fiberglass did. So this is kind of the only resin you can make. The cure time is awesome. It's extremely easy to figure out when it's going to kick, so it gives you enough working time to deal with it. Right now, all I've got here is their orange tool. I do have some black left. Yeah, I do actually. Sitting right here. You can get it in black. You can get it in a couple different colors depending on what you're working on. Neon orange seems to kind of be the best, really. As I've gone through the years, made some out of black, made some out of orange. And I believe I'm starting to really like the orange better, because it gives you a contrast for no matter what color gel coat you're using, unless of course you're using orange. I always thought black would be the way to go, because most of the time when you're laying up a part inside the mold, you'll put down a white standard gel coat, and that contrasts great with the black, so you can see just how thick it is. You don't want it too thick, you don't want it too thin, because you want a nice coating on it. And you do need to use gel coat on anything that has a surface. Anything that's going to be painted, a visible surface, like you'll see all of this on the back side of this, it's not so smooth. I don't have a fiberglass piece around here I can show you. Oh, there's a chunk of glass that I cut out of a console. But, and a lot of you guys have seen this, but this side cannot be painted. I mean, it can, but anytime you get any place where there's a piece of actual glass sticking up, or even it's very close to the surface, it will wick in primer, and just it ruins your surface. So you need a gel coat, which is also a nice UV protection against the resin on the glass. So stuff like that is kind of it's a necessity. You have to do it. So it's kind of where I'm at with this for now anyway. I need to get more cups and brushes. So when you're mixing resin, you're going to mix it into probably a cup. You can buy mixing cups that have graduations on them, and they're plastic and they're pretty much throwaways. These are insulated coffee cups that you can get at like dollar stores and Home Depot, Lowe's, stuff like that, and they're super inexpensive. And you just throw them away when you're done anyway. Do not use plastic or like solo cups. The styrenes that are in the resin will eat through the cup. And you sometimes don't even know what's going to happen. The styrenes and the catalyst, actually, when you use the MEK, will start to eat through the cup, and the bottom will get real gooey, and then it just drops out. Not quite as fast as like when you pour gasoline into a styrofoam cup, but the same type of thing happens. You don't want to do that. I use just these for mixing sticks. They're cheap. You can throw them away. You have to throw them away. You can't clean them anyway. And then you can use cheap brushes, and then I've actually got some decent brushes that I use for certain things, because I found that those actually work better. I've seen some guys clean those when they're done. You can use acetone, stuff like that, and you can clean them, and sometimes you can reuse them. A lot of times they're scrapped, they're garbage. Getting the resin out is a little tougher than you would think. So back to this mold release wax. I go over it with 3 times at a minimum. Not because you need 3 coats of wax, but because, say you're doing the whole thing and you don't realize you skipped a spot here that's real tiny that you could barely see. That spot will stick and prevent you from removing your part from the mold, or removing the mold from the part, depending on what you're making. So I go over it 3 times. So the chances of you skipping the same spot 3 times are next to 0. So we go over it, polish it out just like you would when you're doing a car, let it dry, go over, buff it out, make it nice and smooth. And then on certain things I will also use PVA, polyvinyl alcohol, which is a perfect mold release. That right there. And this stuff will virtually guarantee that you won't get the 2 fused. Very thin layer. You don't need a lot. Once it dries, it looks like this. It looks very smooth. There's definitely a gloss to it, so you know what you've missed and what you haven't missed. That will virtually guarantee the parts will separate. PVA is cheap, it's easy to apply, it's awesome, it's great insurance. You don't have to use it on every part, but I use it on the majority of things, especially things that have hard lines, just so they don't get stuck. But yeah, got the whole thing done. There's actually one spot right here that I missed the PVA. See, and this is why I like to use PVA on top of wax. That's probably waxed. In fact, I would guarantee that it is, because I went over this so much. But I'm going to go over this again and PVA just that little spot real lightly. Let that completely dry, and then this is going to get tooling gelled, and I'll show you how to do that. Tooling gel is what makes the surface of the mold. The mold needs to be, you shouldn't use a regular gel coat, especially if you're going to use the mold more than once. If you're going to make multiple parts, you pretty much need to use a tooling gel. Tooling gel can handle heat cycles way better than standard, like that white gel coat. This stuff will start to crack once it gets the heat cycles of curing a bunch of catalyzed resin sitting on it. This stuff will crack. You can see this was laid up pretty good, if I do say so myself. And it's sturdy, it's strong, it's super lightweight. I cut that out of a console, obviously, and it's easy to work with. It's easy to fill. Anybody who's worked on a Corvette or Fiero or anything else with a fiberglass body knows it's actually not that hard to work with. And of course, it doesn't corrode. Where was I going with this? I don't even know. Kind of went off on a tangent right there. But so the PVA, get the wax. You got to use tooling gel. Tooling gel can handle the temperature spikes. I shouldn't say spikes, but the temperature going from room temp to when you put in your part inside the mold, and you lay up your regular gel, and then you start putting your layers of laminate on top of that. All of that kicks and gives off a lot of heat. That's how it cures. It's an exotherm situation, and it gives off a lot of heat, and it's got to be absorbed by something. So since it's sitting in the mold, the tooling gel and the rest of the mold, depending on how thick it is, how much air pockets you've got in it, that all absorbs heat and dissipates it. It needs to be able to do that over and over and over again without cracking and warping. That's why you use a good tooling gel. A good tooling gel is the equivalent of, say, when you're painting a car, using an excellent clear coat. I've heard a lot of professional painters say you can get away with using a slightly less expensive paint if you use in a top-notch clear coat. You don't want to go cheap on clear, you don't want to go cheap on your tooling gel or your regular gel. Kind of goes with the resin too, but I guess there's some inexpensive resins that people have gotten some really good results out of once you understand the quirks and how they work and how much working time you have before they start to gel. Some will turn into like a gel mix and stay that way for a long time and then they cure. Some just slowly cure the whole time. You know, it's real easy to wet out the glass and it doesn't really get thick until it's near the end and it's starting to get hot. Some give you a long work time and then they kick and turn into a blob, and it's so you have to learn the nuances. Plus your mix is going to make a big difference too. How much hardener that you put into your resin is going to make a huge difference. If you over catalyze it, it kicks real fast and turns into a mess. If you under catalyze it, it never cures, or you get cure spots, or you get spots that alligator. I mean, you get, there's all kinds of problems. So the mix is important, the layup is important, getting air out is important. I'll show you all that when we go to lay up the actual resin itself, and the glass itself. What else was there? So when I get that spot done, I'm gonna get a couple other things ready. We're gonna go over this thing, and you can spray if you've got a paint gun with a really big nozzle, and you can reduce it down, and you can spray gel. I usually don't for stuff that's this small. I'll brush it, but you have to be real careful. You don't want like big puddles sitting in these edges, because if you get it, the thicker it is, the hotter it gets, the more it shrinks. So the more spread out it is, it will cure a little slower, doesn't get quite as hot, and it doesn't shrink as much, which is that's what you don't want. You don't want a lot of shrinkage. Now, good gel coats usually don't shrink too much, but they will. If I were to fill this cup completely to the top and let it sit, when it cured, there'd be a lot of cracks in it and it would pull away from the cup. But if you put just a light coating in there, just a real light coat, like a hollow coat, it would cure and match the inside of the cup, and it would just be the color of the gel coat. So it's the same thing you want to do on your part. You don't want it too thick, you don't want it too thin. So now that this is almost ready to build a mold off of, because the owner wants a mold of this, because obviously to preserve the legacy of it. So that's what's going to happen. We're going to preserve the legacy of this piece and make a mold out of it, because there aren't too many in existence that are shaped like this, or that were built by Universal Studios. So to preserve it, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to preserve it. Make as good a mold as we can, just so should anything ever happen, a backup can be made. As far as I know, that shouldn't be a problem. Nothing's going to happen to this piece. It will be preserved in the way that it is now, and it probably will never be put into a car. I can't say for sure, because like I said, it's not mine. It may end up going in an original. I don't know. I think he just wants to preserve this piece, so that's what we want to do. We want to keep it from having anything done to it, and then should he need something later for an original or anything he wants to do, that's what we're going to do, or he's going to do. Or maybe I'll do. I don't know. We'll figure it out later. Right now the important thing is getting this mold made. So let's get this mold made. I got to go get some more brushes, some more cups. I'm going to buy another couple gallons of resin. I think I'm going to need more tooling gel for another project coming up anyway. I want more brushes for sure. Another thing you want to use, gloves. Use rubber gloves, something to protect your hands, and absolutely use a respirator. You don't want to be breathing this stuff in. It is really not good for you, especially when you go to cut it and trim it out and get it out of the mold. When you're cutting it, you're taking these glass fibers. Kind of hard to, I guess you can really see them because they're all over the place, because I've been laying up stuff. But this is glass. It's actual glass. And when you cut this, you turn it into dust and it gets in your lungs. And from what I've been told by a lot of people, the glass dust never comes out of your lungs. Your lungs just turn scar tissue over it, and they lock it in place, and it's not good for you. It's a whole lot of bad news bears. So wear a respirator. Do yourself a favor. It's not so much that, oh, it stinks. No. You don't want any of this stuff in you. It's not good. Keep it off your skin. Keep it off your clothes for sure. You'll never get it off that. And then keep it out of your lungs. The most important thing. So safety is key around here. I do have a 3M respirator with replaceable organic filters in it, and when I had that thing on, I don't smell anything. It's awesome. As soon as I take it off, it's like, whoa, okay, yeah. We've been laying up resin for sure. It smells like a body shop around here. So that's what we're going to do. This is going to be probably one of the more, I guess, in-depth projects we've done. Hopefully I'll set up a camera, maybe do a time lapse of laying it up, because it's not easy, and it takes hours and hours and hours. And then you got to keep checking, and it's, you know, it just comes with years of doing glass work. You'll start to kind of figure it out, but you can kind of make anything you want out of fiberglass. It's really cool, the stuff that you can do. So yeah, we'll get to that. I'm gonna go get some more materials for sure, because there's just not enough around here. And then maybe we'll get to working on something else that I've got around here. I don't know. There's projects all over the place. It's like it never ends. But yeah, that's what we'll do. I'll show you how to work up with some glass. Let's see, what do I have around here I could actually get to a so this piece that I cut out of a console. I'm gonna do an episode on this, of how to build once you've got a part. Whether you buy one, you build one, doesn't matter. Once you've got a fiberglass piece that you want to build into your kit, like mine. See, so if you see that console right there, that has been in this car for a long time, and I've loved it. It's done its great, but it's not as accurate as I want it to be now, currently. And now that I've got a way to make this happen, I'm going to make it happen. Like, there's supposed to be a tape drive right here, an Alpine tape drive that goes here. I never put it in. I just left my power mirror switch there. So that'll get relocated. Those 3 switches shouldn't be there. There's a switch here. You probably can't see it. That shouldn't be there. The window switches should not be here. They should be up on the actual TV support. These are very close to accurate, and I do have a disk drive, but it's not the same, in the name of accuracy, it's not the same model disk drive that was in the prop car. And you can see my bezel's getting some sun fade and turning a little white there, so I have to fix that. So I'm going to build this entire console and make it as accurate as I can to the TV series. I might be able to throw part numbers and how I got some of the stuff that I got to make it. So yeah, I'll get that done. I'm going to install that in here. I do have a functioning tape deck that I can put in here to run in tandem with the CD player that's in the dash, which is way... you can't really see it, but it's way up in there. So in the factory location. So yeah, this thing's gonna get a lot of upgrades this year. I think that's what's gonna be on the horizon. So we're gonna do a bunch of upgrades to this monster. But yeah, so let's go get some stuff done and start laying up some tooling gel. So we'll see you soon. Stay tuned. And away we go. If I can open the catalyst. Look at, oh jeez. Seriously? It's always something. It's always something. What is that? Get out of there. Now, the object here is I'm mixing this up. Pour the right amount of catalyst. It probably sounds funny because I'm wearing a respirator, so there won't be too much commentary here. I'm just going to be brushing this onto the part, onto the part to copy here. I'm going to get it mixed pretty good. Probably over mixing it, but you know, I'd rather have it done that way than the other way, so. So I'll try to save as much of this as I can. Yummy! Okay. Grab my $1 million paintbrush here and see what we can do, huh? Oh yeah, it's got a good consistency to it. Like I said, the object is to get an even coating. You don't want to go crazy. You don't want it too thick, because it will start to separate and pull itself off when it cures. Because like I said, it does shrink. Ooh, see it right there. I just let it drip off the edge. That's okay. I'd rather it go off the edge than where I don't want it. So. Spread it out a little bit. Usually I can get away with just doing one thinner, I should say, I want to say thinner coat of this, just As long as you got it nice even and you can't see through it, is kind of the game here. You don't want it like too thin, and you definitely, like I said, don't want it too thick. So you don't want a lot of pressure on your brush either, by the way. You can pull off your PVA, or if your wax is too thin, you can move it out of the way, and you definitely do not want that. I never had it happen with wax, but I've heard that it can. You gotta say I like the orange much, much better than the black. There's too much right there. There we go. Try to get this pretty clear. Getting somewhere, huh? Probably should have done over here first. That would have been the smart thing to do, so I'm not working over the project. Stop right there. Let's get that a little wet first. There we go. That's better. I think it might have mixed up too much. Hey, better than I have in my mouth. You know it's riveting watching this, huh? That's okay. The end result will absolutely be worth it. Yeah, absolutely mixed up too much. I probably should have thinned that out a little bit. That's okay. I can slap it on something else, and I'm just going to make them all that up anyway. Let's see how we're doing. I said, you don't want too much pressure, especially as the stuff starts to get a little thicker, which it's starting to do, which is why I'm trying to lay down a little wetter on top of that. The brush strokes aren't as important because you won't be able to see them anyway. A couple spots right there that are a little thin, that's okay. Oh, that's much better. Much better. Okay. Alright, let's let that cure. Come back and take a look at it. Alright, it's been a couple minutes. Figured I'd take the mask off, get stuff out of the way a little bit. It's definitely not cured. It's going to take some time. But what I kind of wanted to show you is, it's going to be really hard to see. Right about there, you can see one little brush stroke that's still open. A couple right there. That's pretty much it though. Right here. Really hard to see, but they're there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up a little bit of touch-up. I'm going to let this cure a little bit, because if you start going over it now while it's curing and while it's super thick, as the brush grabs it, it can actually stick to the brush and peel it off, and then you get an air pocket underneath, and then you're really in trouble. So I probably go just a little. I'll just do some touch-up. Probably won't even be more than a thimble full, you know, something like that. Be really small, an 1/8 of a cup, something like that, 1/16 of a cup. But gotta let this cure. When this is completely cured, it will still stay slightly tacky on the surface, which is what you want, because you want your laminate to go on top of it to bond to it chemically. So your first layer of laminate, of catalyzed regular resin, laminating resin, and glass will actually permanently, it doesn't just stick to the surface of it and cure and get hard, and basically that's a mechanical bond, and that can delaminate, especially with a lot of heat. We don't want that. So especially using a good tooling gel, you usually don't have this problem, but if you don't let it cure too long, obviously. But it'll stay really slightly tacky. So at that point, I'm going to go over and I'll touch up whatever I think needs to be touched up. It should be very thin that needs to be touched up. Kind of almost wishing I didn't put, that's still pretty thin, so we should be okay. As much on it as I did. But that's one pretty good coat, actually. If I had a tiny bit more mixed, I probably could have just touched those up now. Especially if I was thinking about it, but I figured we'll shoot a real quick one of this just to knock it out and show you. You can kind of see that side too. But yeah, the whole thing is completely neon orange now, which is, you know, always awesome. So like I said, orange is a great contrast color. So it doesn't matter what color tooling or regular gel coat or the surface of the part that you're going to make. If you use black gel, white gel, whatever you can even pigment them too. It doesn't matter what you use, it will contrast with this neon orange really well, so you'll be able to see just how much is on there. Plus, as you're laying your laminate, you can tell how thick it is by the color change of the color that you pick. So like when we're making the mold of this, you'll probably notice, like, if you can kind of remember right now how neon orange this is, the heavier and the more layers you get, it's not going to be this neon orange. The color will change. So it kind of gives you an idea about how thick it is. General rule of thumb I like to follow is if you're going to lay up your part with, say, 3 layers of glass, and I use 1.5 ounce mat. There's different thicknesses of chop strand mat you can use. If you're going to do it with, say, 3 layers, you want this to be at least 3 times as thick as that. So I would do it with at least 9. And it depends on what we're going to do with this, so we'll kind of feel it as we go, because you want it to be heavy enough to be able to make more than one part. Now if you're only going to make one, you can basically make this thing almost be sacrificial and just go super thin on it, just as long as it holds the shape and you're ready to go, and you can lay up your part in the mold and pop it out and you're good. But I don't think that that's what the intention is for this mold. It's like I said, it's preservation. We're preserving the legacy of where this piece came from, since they're super ultra rare and there aren't too many known to exist, at least not as of right now. So we just want to basically preserve the legacy. We want to keep the original part intact, and then make a mold that's good enough that where he can make a handful if he needs to repair or to do any customization, or, you know, build a piece to show outside of a car or something like that. It all depends on what you're using your part for when you're building your mold, how you're going to do it and what you're going to do with it. But yeah, there you go. There's the first step. Let's let this cure. I'm going to give it some time, and we'll let it do its thing, and we'll come back and do some touch-up. and then start laying up the resin. I'll probably just do a time lapse on that because no one wants to see, 20 hours of mixing resin and laying glass. So, but we'll definitely show that, and then I'll show how to get the mold off the part without destroying the part or the mold. Make sure they're both okay. At that point, the mold will be green, which means it's new. It hasn't been used. It hasn't gone through too many heat cycles. And you don't want to just start slapping parts out of it like immediately. You want to give it time to cure. You're going to want to make sure that it's completely and fully cured, and then you have to polish the inside of the mold just to make sure that it's the way that you want it. And then it should be good to go. I like to leave sometimes I'll leave parting wax on it just to keep it kind of protected from dust and stuff. But we'll get to that later. That's way down the road. So, yep, here you go. There's the first step of building your own part out of fiberglass. And this is assuming, obviously, that you've already got a plug or a part to copy. I might get out some foam and sculpt something custom, too, at some point on this channel. And I'm sure we're going to do that because there's all kinds of cool things you can do with fiberglass, especially in the automotive world. And a lot of other applications, too. So, but once you've got a plug, a part to copy, this is the first step. So, or second or third, I guess, after prepping it and mold releasing it and stuff. So, but here we go. Stay tuned, and we'll let this cure and get on with it. Alright, so here we are, getting ready to lay up the first layer of laminate on top of the freshly done tooling gel, which has got a perfect layer on it, perfectly even, no issues. So, let's get together here. I'll probably time-lapse this because nobody's got 20 hours they want to sit here and watch you lay up glass over and over. So we'll speed this up a little bit here and get you into the first layer of making a mold when you want to build your own parts. Whew, just took the respirator off. Okay, so not looking too bad. Preliminary layer. You can't go laying up 10, 15 layers of glass all at once, because when it kicks, that's an immense a lot of heat, and I really don't want the surface of this thing to have any cracks in it. So I really want this to be as perfect as it can be, because the owner deserves it. So not looking too bad though. So we're gonna let this thing cure, and I'm gonna come back and we're gonna have to do the other side. Obviously I have to turn the table around or get this monster the heck out of the way, which won't be too hard to do. So we're gonna do that, and we're gonna let this cure for now to get a little bit of hardness in it, because subsequent layers, as long as I do it with inside a specific window, they will mechanically or chemically bond to this, and when they all cure, it's all one big piece. If you let this cure too much, especially with the resin, actually the resin I'm using is not so much for that, but if you let it cure too much and it's completely cured, anything that you lay on top of it can delaminate, it can pop off. Usually then you have to kind of sand it or hit it with some acetone real lightly, so that the subsequent layers can bite into it and permanently be a part of it, because we want this to never delaminate. I don't believe we're going to be making any like production runs of these or anything, but hey, you never know. So the mold needs to be robust, and it needs to be overdone, because it needs to be as perfect as we can get it and last as long as we can possibly get it, because there aren't any more of these parts out there, and we need to preserve this. So and I think I've said that way too many times, by the way. But yeah, if you're laying up parts, or you're laying up, or you want to learn how to lay up stuff, I'm hoping that this mini video series helps. It's not just for making Knight Rider cars. I mean, you can build anything: speaker boxes, hoods, door panels, dashboards, any custom body panel, really. Ask anybody in the Hero community about body kits and rebody kits. There's a million of them out there, and they're all pretty much fiberglass. So, because it's fairly easy to work with, it's fairly inexpensive, and anybody can do it. It's really not that hard. You just got to kind of take your time and learn. But you can kind of see the color change a little bit where it's really starting to cure. It's kind of hard to pick it up on camera, but neon orange tooling gel is great for mold making, because you can really see color changes and how thickness it is. Otherwise it's really hard to tell, especially if you're using a high quality resin, unless you get something that's tinted, which I guess you could do. I usually don't. The smell in here is phenomenal. It's a good thing it's not smell-o-vision. But yeah, I'm gonna go over this thing. I got to go over the entire backside 7 to 10 times, I'm gonna say, on that entire side. I have to go all the way down here, because I definitely didn't do, I mean, that area is good, and this whole area is great. This area is decent, but not here. It's still fairly thin here. There's only 2-3 rows maybe, or layers here. And a good rule of thumb, at least that I've always followed, if anybody out there knows more about glass than me, I am more than happy to learn from professionals, is that you want your mold to be about 3 times as thick as the parts that you're going to pull out of it. So if you're making parts with 3 layers of 1.5 ounce mat or so, you want to make the mold with 9, because it needs to be able to dissipate all that heat over and over and over again. I'm not sure if I mentioned that in the last one or not, but that's why we're making it as heavy as we are. A part would never be this heavy. It would be way too thick and too much to go into a car, so especially on the roof. But yeah, here we go. Here's where we're at with this. We'll come back here in a few hours. I'm going to kind of let this thing set up a little bit and do its thing, so we can spin this around without having to worry about any delamination or any issues or popping or anything like that. I might just move the whole table and just work on the back side of it and just not worry about the car. So, but here we are. Thanks for joining me. Let's come back again and revisit this here in a couple hours and see what else we can get out of it. Coming up, we are going to be laying up a dash, I think. So, and that one will be real fun, because it's a multi-piece mold, where obviously this isn't. This is a single piece. Depending on your negative drafts and your cutbacks and stuff, you can do it on a 1 piece. But we're going to do a multi-piece mold, and I'll show you how that works. So thanks for joining us. Like, subscribe, stuff like that, and we'll see you soon. Just opened my garage door, so it blocks a couple lights, but check this out. So I got this, so you can hit it. See that? Now, if you can see how thick it is in there, it gets pretty hot. So that's why I was saying that it's a good idea. Yeah, see, that's over 100 degrees. To lay it up. Yeah, it's getting warm. To lay up your mold a little heavier. and that's why. See that? Kind of cool, huh? Isn't science fun, kids? Alright, I saved you guys, I don't know, about 4 hours worth of me laying up glass. It's the same thing that you just saw. So we are completely around it now. I don't remember how many layers. I think I want to say we're at 5 in certain areas. 5 or 6. I can't remember. I lost count. I was trying to actually kind of concentrate right here. As you can see, it's a little darker. That's where it's starting to cure a little more. So we have a thin strip like here. Obviously here. The corners are always going to be thin, so I'm going to go around every single corner, especially this one, and get that one too. But you can see it's a nice even. There's no like real saturated spots, and it's pretty evenly soaked up. There's a couple bubbles on the surface right here, but I can get those 3 out before we put any more glass on top of it. The most important layer is the first layer that you put down is absolutely by far the most important, because that's what bonds to the tooling gel, and you don't want that to pop when you're laying up parts and stuff. So it's the surface, it's the most important. The farther out that you get, it gets a little less important, but you still don't want to have a buttload of air in it. But there you go. We're one step closer. I think I'm going to let this cure up just a little bit. I don't want to put too much on the sides and have too much curing at once, because the more you have, the more it shrinks, and I don't want to do that. I want to kind of have the whole thing kind of cured at an even temperature, and kind of, I don't know, I'm trying to say it. I think you know what I'm trying to say. And then I'll go over it again. The more layers that you go, the thicker you can put it on at once. Like the first layer, you shouldn't go too heavy, like I didn't, except for that one spot right there, and maybe a little bit right there. But those are flat areas; they're easy, because you don't want the thing to kick too hard. I'm using a really high quality resin, so it's got minimal shrinking. It's still going to shrink. They all do. It's just part of the chemical process of it curing down. I like to lay down a lot more glass here and kind of let it just waterfall down, because then it gives this stuff something to stick to as it's wrapping around. And this is all going to get cut off anyway, so you won't have it. I know it looks like there's a lot and there's a mess and all that kind of stuff, and it kind of is a mess, really, but it's just the way that it is. Just the nature of the beast. Anytime you're doing glass, it's a disaster, it's a mess. God knows how many times I've destroyed tables. That's why I left the plastic on this one and put cardboard down, so I can just throw all that away when I'm done. Got a lot of expendables when you're doing this kind of stuff. But it's pretty cool. I think when it's done, we're going to have a pretty usable mold, and get this one out of here and move on to the next glass project, which who knows what that'll be. Got enough of them around here, that's for sure. And I'll show you how to do those too. Got a couple things coming up on KITT here that I really need to get to. Installing a radio, a new stereo. For a very specific reason, I have to integrate that into the lower console's tape deck. So that they both work in tandem together. So I'll have a CD, obviously radio, and then the tape deck and Bluetooth. So I want to get all that functional inside this car, since right now it's just got a CD player. It's a pretty cool CD player, but it's a CD player. So we'll get that out and get the new one in. I'm not sure if I'll shoot anything on that. Installing a stereo is pretty simple, and I kind of showed it a little bit on the Fiero situation, making the harness and stuff. Those wires I'll probably solder, though, because those are inside the car and there's not really a lot of vibration in there and not a lot of heat and stuff. So once it's in there, you can solder it, and you don't have to worry about flexibility as much, as long as once it's stuffed in the dash. That's it. You don't have to mess with it anymore. Not too much else going on around here. Holiday weekend, so that'll date this video for sure. And I've been doing nothing but working. So once I get all these pieces together, it'll be up, and you guys will be able to see this, and hopefully it'll help other people jump into fiberglass projects. I like seeing what other people do with the skills they've learned, and see all the kind of cool things that you can create. But the overhead is coming along. I still got to get my dash mold out, and that one will be the cool video, because you get to see something very large get popped out. That one could take a while, though. I get some more work done on that thing too. So I still got to get the subwoofer installed in that stupid thing, and get the amplifier in it. I haven't done that yet. I think I'm gonna do that when I pull the roof out of it, so I can recover it. But yep, there you go. There's the update on the mold. Hopefully the next time that you see this thing here in a little bit, I will be popping it out of popping the plug out of the mold, and then polishing the mold just to make sure it's good to go, and then get it off to its new owner. So stay tuned. Yep, and there it is. Looks like this is going to be the final layup, as far as I can tell. So there's 7, 8 layers. of glass pretty much everywhere on it. Now there's a couple little areas that are slightly heavier because when you start to get to the end of a cup and there's no place you can really kind of throw anything, you don't want to throw it all away. So like I put a couple extra chunks of glass there, and of course flat areas are always easy. You can just kind of toss something there. Never hurts. Which is probably why actually on camera it shows way darker than it really is. It's actually pretty more even than that, but probably because it's neon orange. But if you look at the beginning of this video till now, you can see just how bright the orange used to be and how kind of dulled down it is now, because it's full of resin. So I'll let this cure, and yes, I know there's a lot of excess here. I like to do it like this because how these areas are very, very pointed and very thin. If you can lay it over and just kind of drape it across this whole area, this glass likes to conform better when it's got something else to kind of stick to. Glass does not like to form 90-degree angles. It doesn't like, it likes to just basically stay flat. So forcing it to stay in curves is a little tough, especially when they're really tight. So that's why that's got a lot there, but this will all be cut out. So, but yeah, there it goes. Let's let this thing cure. Come back here in a little bit to the magic of awesome editing, and we will pop the plug out of the mold. And there are 2 more pieces that are going to be copied that go with this, or copied I should say, that are going to be molded that go with this, and that's 2 fiberglass pieces that when this is mounted in the car, when you take the T-tops out, that cover this very edge from the outside of the car, so you don't see the edge. Actually, I can kind of show you. I don't have those pieces in this car, and this was not made with original parts, obviously, back then. So you can see the top edge of the fiberglass. Well, there's a piece that, this will be interesting. Let's see here. Wait, there we go. So it bolts up here and it comes out. This is actually supposed to come up to here, but this is it's an aftermarket piece. So, but this would come all the way up to here, but it bolts basically here, right about here or so. Comes down, wraps around, and stops at the very edge here, and uses the bolt holes up here to bolt down. So it just covers it and kind of gives it a nice finished trim look. And that's the other pieces that we're going to make a mold out of to go with this, so that you got a complete set. So yeah, let's come back after this is cured and start the cutting and the fun stuff of not trying to breathe in fiberglass dust, because you really don't want to do that. So see you soon. And there it is. So I've taken it off the table, obviously, and I've already started cutting all of the extra stuff that was all hanging. Let me swing this around here a little bit. It was hanging off of here, all the glass and stuff and the resin and stuff like that. So I just kind of start cutting straight around. You don't get it exact yet because you don't want to mess up and start cutting into the original plug. In this case, we really don't want to do that. So you can see all the fiberglass dust. Yes, I've got my respirator on. You really can't see it, but here it is. And I'm wearing safety glasses to do this and I've usually got gloves on, which are sitting off camera right now. So flip it over. As you can see, of how this was mounted in the original car, a little rough. But I've left a little bit sticking up all the way around it. So when we pull this plug out and we're doing the final on the mold, I'll cut all this down and get it a little closer. Like I said, that's like really rough. I don't want to go too much because taking a round blade on that and trying to get it into here is real tricky. And I really don't want to cut this. So I'm going to leave a bunch of this off, plus it gives me a little bit to kind of pull. You can kind of see it now starting to separate a little bit right there. So that's what these are for. They are plastic wedges. They're fairly flexible. They're made just for stuff like this, so they don't gouge the inside of the mold when you kind of put them in there. And you don't want to go beating and wailing on them, and it is getting kind of precarious because as soon as you put one in there, you'll hear kind of a cracking noise, and you swear something's breaking. And usually it's not. It's pretty rare that happens. It probably does, but it's pretty rare. So I'm going to go around, start putting this wedge in here and getting it cracked. Maybe I can find a place to set up a camera and can kind of watch that. But at least for this section anyway. Yeah, it's dirty. It's covered in dust, and I'll clean all of this out before it goes back and stuff like that. But it's definitely dusty. There's a chunk right there that I cut off, so you can kind of see. That's the kind of the slag that you have left over. And you actually want this. I know I've heard a lot of people say just cut sections and just lay them right to the very edge and lay it up. You could do that, but if you have this stuff hanging off of the edge, this actually will help kind of keep it tight to this edge right here. So it doesn't kind of separate. When you have a bunch of layers here, you can see it's kind of thick. So
you'll have a bunch of layers, and if you breathe wrong, sometimes this stuff will just kind of peel off as an assembly, especially if you got way too much on at once and it hasn't really started to cure yet. That's why I say don't lay up the whole thing at once. But this will actually help, especially on areas back here. So what I did here is I laid up, and you really can't see it too much in the video because I came back later and laid up another layer, and I didn't think you wanted to see another 15 hours of glass, but I laid up a big piece of glass all the way across, all the way to here, and then just let the resin, as it wicked into here, it would wick down, because this is upside down obviously, it would wick down, and it would keep these corners nice and tight. So that's how I got these tight with getting the air out. I was having a problem with it at first and found a way around it. So same thing here. This was all the way across. You can actually see some of the look at that. I got all the way down to the tooling gel that is off the part. Mosquitoes are everywhere out here today. That's awesome. So yeah, I'll separate this. Let me go grab some more stuff. Maybe I'll grab my tripod if I can do that, and we'll set it up so you can kind of see maybe me cracking this loose. So let's do that. And away we go. All right, let's see if we can use the small edges first. Yep. Let that kind of get some. Okay, back to the fun stuff. Probably heard that crack. It's normal. That's it cracking loose from the part, not breaking. You can see where I have to still cut. Alright, that corner. The corner is a tough one though, which is why I don't want to go crazy on it. Oop, get rid of that now. This corner is another one here. You can see all the nice mold release agent in there, working really well. Again, this is always the fun part, breaking it loose. Cracking is very, very nerve-wracking now, especially if you're super nervous. You really, really, really don't want to mess up the original part, which of course I do not want to do. That would be 15 shades of bad. This side's almost completely broke free. Little section here, which is always tough. There we go. Corner's okay if I can get this piece that needs to be cut off out of there. There we go. Alright, cool. This side's coming loose kind of good. Hair releasing. Give it a second. Myself, it's awesome. That's okay. I may have to cut this down more because I don't even know if I can get behind it. It's so thick and I cut it too short already. This side's already down to the edge. I wasn't thinking when I did that. There's the small one for this. Edge there. Yeah, it's coming loose nice and easy. Everything inside looks good. Come on, get out of there. I really need to crack this side, and that's the hard part, because I didn't leave enough of it for me to grab a hold of off the rip. I know better, but I did it anyway. Left or right, because it can crack and break loose. I don't want to do that. That would be bad. Ooh, some about right there. But not right there. Well, I may have to try to lift it. It's flexing entirely too much for me to do that. It's just not enough to get under right now. We'll release. Yeah, I can't get under it. Just keep it together there. Up on that. Yeah, I really wish I would have left an edge on that. Very smart. I did not do that. Sometimes introducing vibration. I'll help it crack loose. Nope, heard one there. You don't want to go beating on it. Yeah, it still has a crack loose right there yet. Get all this dust out of my face. I may have to cut this all the way down and get under it because I can't do it from here. There's a layer of PVA. Yeah, I can't get under it. Let's get that out of the way. I don't need that right now anyway. I don't plan on cutting any more of it. At least not right this second. Stopping right there, so we're not gonna force it any more than we have to. I'm already beating the snot out of my wedges. May have to cut it some more. Don't want to do that yet, but might have to. Get it down to where the edge of the part is and then kind of peel it back. Because I wrapped around a little bit of tooling gel around the edge just to make sure I got everything. And that wrap, unless I peel that off now, it's kind of in the way. Yeah, I can't really get under it yet. There, we got. Let me get this mask off. Oh, jeez. There we go. See that? Started to pop. You can kind of see how it's starting to pop up just a tiny bit. Just by pushing this down, then you let it sit. You start to hear little cracking noises, and it starts to pop up a little bit. So we're going to do that all the way around. I really can't kind of hold the camera. I wish I could. So I'm going to do it all the way around. Let's get this thing out of here. Then we're going to trim off. You can kind of see the excess right there that I left on. I wish I would have done that on this side, but I got a little overzealous and started cutting it flush. So let's get that loose, get this thing popped out of here, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's out. Okay, so after 5 minutes of messing with it, and I did end up cutting a little bit of this, I popped that one in there, and as soon as I did that, the whole thing, if you can kind of see it, started to pop loose. I don't know about the bear yet, but see that? All the way down. It's good news. That means that nothing in here is stuck. So, just take the gloves off so I can kind of see if I can get this in there a little bit more. If I can set this on something so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing here without going nuts. Oh yeah, I can pop that out. See, there's that cracking noise I was telling you about. Let's pop that out. That's interesting. So, sometimes this happens. Some of the primer came loose, probably from the heat. Oh, look, it says back on there. That's kind of neat. A little hidden Easter egg. But in good shape, other than the primer. Let's set that off to the side because I'm about to clean it anyway. Set that right there. But yeah, some of the primer popped loose, which is always fun. Oh, there's some of the pieces in there. Should be able to get that off with no problem. Let me get this out. Gotta shake loose the broken pieces that are. There you go. See that? I'll set that down. Here, let's put it up against this tree trunk here. So there you go. There's a mold. Almost complete. Now what I got to do is obviously get that little primer chunk out of there, which is strange that would pop off right there. Probably because every time I got done doing a section, if I had any extra like little pieces of glass or whatever, I was stuffing it inside this tray. It probably got really hot and just, that's like really smooth too, and just broke loose the primer, which no big deal. The part's fine. That had to be filled in on the original because there was a switch bank here. And actually, funny enough, if you can see that little ridge right there, that's where it was filled in, from where the original switches were. So yeah, I just got to trim this off now, get this whole edge all the way around right there. Doesn't look bad though. This corner I was really worried about. These two corners are very, very, very tight, and they're very small, and it's hard to lay up glass there, so those came out flawless. Awesome. The inside of this looks good. Any imperfections that you see other than that stupid primer spot, like these here, they are in the original. That's just mold release. This thing still has a lot of mold release still sitting in it, so that's all got to be cleaned out. This whole thing, there's some right there. More PVA. And that comes right off. It's also water soluble, which is nice. There's probably going to be some wax in here and stuff too. I'll have to get that loose. But once we clean up that and cut this down to the edge of the orange, it should come out pretty good. Almost looks like you can see through it, but you kind of a little bit, I guess. Pretty normal for tooling job. Get all that out of there. But yeah, I'll clean this up. Might hit it with some polish. Oops. Yeah, clean all the stuff out of here. Trim this up, hit it with some polish, and then let it sit open for a little while, and then I will wax it and pass this on. So there you go. So from taking apart, and it doesn't matter what kind of part it is, anything that you want to copy, get it ready. See, all this stuff is just dust. Oh, there's a spot right there too. It's weird that's not in the mold though. See, yeah, the heat got to the body filler. I started to crack it, but we got it. Yeah, the primer's all coming loose. Oh, that's because that is extremely smooth. That's why. That's all right. Part's okay. See, there's no deformation, no nothing. Nothing's cut, nothing's broken. A little dusty. Clean it off. There's probably still going to be a bunch of mold release wax on it and stuff like that. And of course, on the back side, I have to careful with it there. I got to clean all this dust out of here because I'm sure he doesn't want to keep all this in there. Plus, a little bit of tooling gel there. A little on top there. But this is why when I do the layer of mold release, I always do this top edge, and sometimes I'll even put something on the back here. I did here with, I put duct tape here. Duct tape's easy, you can just throw it away, because this is so thin that if I had to wrap anything around it, which I didn't think I was going to try to do anyway because this is such a tight corner, I would stick it to that and then just peel it off and throw it away. But now, by doing that, see, just peel it off and throw it away. Get that off of there. So this way nothing's stuck to it. This thing's still in great shape. Once I clean it, I'll put that on this side too. Which I didn't think I was going to use it, and I didn't. I ended up doing the waterfall technique. But God, look at all this dust from me cutting tooling gel and regular gel. But yeah, the part is still as smooth as can be. Nothing was cut on it. God, yeah, those corners are so tight. But I got them. And other than that, which I'll have to get out of the mold. Interesting that it popped that part loose though. You can kind of almost see the body filler color in here. How it's a fiberglass filler. It's a different color from the original universal laid up stuff. But there we go, from that to that. And of course I edited out probably 35 hours at least of this, of going back and laying up and cutting pieces, all kinds of stuff, but you got the gist. It's just a bunch more of the same steps that were already in the middle, which now I just got to trim it. I'll trim it all the way around the edge. I'll get that out of there. Be good to go. Cool. Now what other trouble can we get into? Yeah, we'll find something. There's always something. Thanks everybody. Thanks for coming on this little journey with me into fiberglass land. It's always good to breathe this stuff in with somebody else. So
wear your respirator, kids. That's the key. Wear your respirator and your eye protection. Gloves. So yeah, thanks for coming along for this. Stay tuned, and you're gonna see some more cool projects. There you go. It's cleaned up. I didn't go crazy scraping it or nothing. I just kind of chipped it with my finger, and it mostly popped out. Then I just kind of washed it. A little imperfection there, but nothing bad at all. The only bad thing about brushing gel coat, stop for a second, is that it's not as, like, I mean, it looks glossy obviously now, but it could be glossier. There's a little bit of mold release still there I gotta get out. Yeah, I probably should just scrub that. I gotta polish it anyway, so that'll make sure it gets it all out. But yeah, the in-surface, yes, you can see a bunch of mold release wax still. I don't know if it shows up on camera or not. Let's see a little bit of it through here. But it came out really good. Definitely plenty thick and sturdy for producing parts out of. But there you go. See that? Pretty sweet, huh? One big chunk of plastic at this point. So let me get this off to the new owner now, and we'll move on to our next project. Like I said in the last one, I appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. This is definitely not something that you can just kind of figure out on your own, I guess. I mean, I guess you could, but it would probably be a lot more expensive that way. So at least if you can use this as a mini guide, I guess you could say, to build your own parts, whether it be replica parts for a car or body panels or anything really, anything you want to make out of fiberglass, it can pretty much be done, and all the steps are basically the same. I'll have to show you how to probably build a multi-piece mold, because that one's a little bit more involved. That involves really planning it out so that you can demold it later, otherwise you can get parts stuck. This obviously can be done in a single piece because everything is kind of opening up as it gets, so you can pop the part straight out. But if this were to come in or to wrap all the way around, you can't do it that way. It would have to be cut into multiple pieces. And even something like this, if you wanted to, you could make it into a multi-piece, even though this one didn't need to be. Because I have another one that I think I did in multi-piece. I didn't really have to, but I did anyway. So, but there it is. There's how you build a part. So let's move on to the next. Thanks for coming along for the ride on this, and let's join us in our next endeavor. Thanks, guys. See you soon.